What are you even doing?
What are you even doing?
Let's talk about it.
Today on Honestly, Dear Listener, we're talking about the actual things we're making and what's to come in the first quarter of 2025.
We're two childhood best friends talking about creative mindset.
I'm Emily Hatch.
And I'm Carrie Schaefer, and this is Honestly, Dear Listener.
Honestly, dear listener.
Woo! Hey, dear listener.
Hey,
Here we are again,
here we are.
2025. One of the reasons why we're doing a podcast is to take listeners along with us, but also we want to have some kind of accountability for our art. And we also want a snapshot of what it was like for future posterity and for our kids to know what it was like mid-process working on things and making crap. What we want to do is do episodes where we talk about how the last 3 months have gone, and then we also put forth into the universe our intentions for the next 3 months of things that we're personally working on.
This is like before they were famous. Just kidding. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe. Who knows?
we don't
Who
know.
knows? But we do want to show you what we're doing and then talk about what things come up for us as we're doing those things. Because I can't imagine that us trying to achieve our goals is much different than you trying to achieve yours and having things come up that are blocks or motivation things or normal life things that come up. For me, I think why this would be helpful is that I tend to try to do too many things and
Mhm.
then I get pissed that I didn't do them all, and it's just unrealistic
Yep.
to to do that. So what our lives kind of look like now have looked like the last 3 months, and then what the intentions and goals would be for the next 3 months. That's what we're going to talk about today. And I want you to think about this for yourself. Do you want to write it out? Do you want to tell a friend? Do you want to just message us, tell us? Why not?
We would love it.
Yeah. All right. What's been happening with you, Carrie?
In the last 3 months. So we're talking October 1st to December, last part of December, correct?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So Emily and I, we formed a class on the Artist Way where we had people come along with us and do all the 12 weeks. And we started September 1st. So by October 1st, we would have already had those 4 weeks under our belt. And so I would have already been starting the morning pages, which is one of the main themes of The Artist's Way in Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way, is writing out kind of whatever's coming up for you every single morning. And so I have been doing that, not perfectly, which is not the goal here, but I have been staying fairly consistent with doing Artist's Way morning pages every morning. So I want to keep doing that. I think the main thing that's happened in the last 3 months, though, is that I got one of my short stories published,
Yay!
which was huge. And I'll link to, I read it on one of these episodes. So I'll link to
Mhm.
that in the show notes.
It's so good.
And so you can, and then I'll also link to where it was published. It was with an online literary magazine called The Groke,
Mm.
and my one of my friends works for them, and so yeah, it's very that's probably I've been riding high off of that. Just, it always feels good to know that while where you think your work is good and you would read your work, that other people would be interested in doing that too, and so that always feels nice.
I would
So
like to interrupt really quickly and
yes.
say that the way that you said that your friend works for the magazine that published your article
Hmm.
makes it sound like nepotism somehow. However, the friend that Carrie made, she made because she was publishing her work on an open forum Substack, and this person liked her work and then started talking to her and then featured us on Women Who Podcast, and then asked for a submission for this. So it's
Yeah.
not like you had a friend that was just thought you were nice and you baked cookies for her and she was like, "You know what? I had a son to put it." That's not what happened. Just I would just like to say. Okay.
Yes, she's a writing friend. So,
That
yes. Thank
they've
you,
never
Emily.
met in real life,
That's true.
and the only reason that they're friends is because they've admired each other's work.
That's
So,
true. She herself is an excellent writer. You are right. Thank you for that delineation.
yes, I think it's important.
Um, Also, in the last couple of months, I have added to my, overall, reading goal, and I do this every year on goodreads.com. I highly suggest if you're a reader that you do it. You can uh, see other people's recommendations for books. You can log all the books, so I know exactly when I read something and what I liked about it, and all of that stuff. This year, I right now I'm at 65 books, and I
Dang.
always set, and this is a really this is kind of a hack that I use, because every year I always set my reading goal at 15 books. Why 15 books, you say, when you're far surpassing that? Because I get a dopamine hit at 15 books, and then everything is just how much better I'm doing after I achieve my goal. Like,
Mm,
setting your goals really low, something that you can easily hit, and then blowing that goal out of the water makes you feel really successful, rather than if I would have set the goal at 65, you know?
mhm,
Does that make
mhm.
sense? It's kind
Yeah,
of a
that's awesome.
psychology thing.
Yeah.
I just hit 1,181 days on Duolingo, which also
Nice.
feels really good. I've done a combination of Spanish and music, and I've made a commitment that I'm going to do the rest. I'm going to keep going in Spanish, and I got a keyboard. Here it is. It's over in the background. There it is.
Yay!
And I'm practicing doing sight reading on the piano for 10 minutes a day every day. So that is really exciting too. And I'm doing this for several reasons. I'm a musician that has always struggled with music theory and sight singing and playing. And also, number two, they have done studies that have shown that when you are learning something that is hard for you, and sight reading is hard for me. I want to do everything by ear, but
Mhm.
forcing myself to do something that is really hard, um, and keep doing it, especially when you feel the resistance, has anti-dementia properties to it. So if
Mm,
you're trying to actively combat dementia and just like the natural um brain senescence, I don't even know if that's the right word, that we start losing as we age, learning something that is not easy for you and doing it now in your 40s
mm.
helps to combat that. Like, you're literally building brain when you do
Cool.
that. Plus, just keeping a family
Yeah, that
afloat.
little, like, raising children thing that's
Yeah.
like yeah.
I mean, I'm doing that, keeping a household going. Um, I've written 2 short stories, in the past 3 months, so
That's awesome.
that's me. What about you, Emily?
I love it. I this shows you how the some stark differences between Carrie and I. She was like, "Let me write that down and think about this beforehand," and I just spent my time looking at um, a couple of messages and hanging out, and then I'm like, "Oh, I did write stuff down that's in the other room, so I'm gonna try to remember." What I did. Um, we did the artist's way. Thank you for
Mhm.
that. Uh, and I hired a coach um, that Gemma, she was on our podcast just a couple of months ago.
I'll link to her episode in the show notes, by the way, if you're
It's
interested.
great. You should listen to it. She is my business coach and has helped me kind of rethink the way that I am coaching, the setup, the structure, like pay structure, that kind of stuff. Um, and in that 3 months, I have gotten new clients and have started teaching in a way that feels a lot more like in alignment with who I am and how I want to help artists.
Mm.
So that's been rad. I quit a job I didn't want to be doing anymore.
Woohoo!
Um, I started playing with a disco band and since have done the biggest indoor crowd show that I have ever done.
Can we link
Um,
to it in our show notes? Can we put it up on our social media?
oh sure. Yeah.
Let's do it.
It was a
It's
really
such a
fun one.
it's a great clip. You'll have to see it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And then I have met artists and one of my jobs is like connecting artists to resources like Vocalize You. So I work with Vocalize You, which is an artist, like a singing, songwriting, performing artist and producer artists. It's an intensive in LA. And so I've met more artists and connected them um, with them as well as teachers. So I've done some traveling and like judged at the National Association of Teachers of Singing competition and then connected some teachers with more resources also, which is part of what I do. And I love that. I hired like have now met a cool dude who has written a Broadway play and he's going to help me with my writing of my show that I have officially started writing. Um,
Yes.
I'm pretty stoked about that. And
And that's a huge freaking deal. Emily's writing a show, y'all. She's writing a show that you can actually go to eventually and see and hear and experience. And oh, I just think, yes, yes, Emily, yes.
thank you. I've been really wanting to write more in general, and I feel like so many of the things I do go together. So one of the things I did was join a songwriting collective in the city. They have monthly performances at the bitter end. And so and then they also do like some workshopping of your songs as well. So I joined that collective and am looking forward to my first performance with them. It'll be my first, oh shit, this is making me scared. My first performance of my originals in New York. That's happening in January. So I signed up with them and set that up. I have a co-writing buddy. Uh,
Also, you are doing a writing retreat with one of your really good friends in January.
yeah, yeah, I do. There's a lot of that happening. There's this lady I know, and we talk sometimes,
Every
and we
week, in
actually,
fact, at least.
yeah, and then we just set up a little writers retreat in New York. You might know her too. Her name's Carrie. Um,
Yay!
so yeah, that's happening.
It's awesome.
It's a lot of stuff. And one really cool thing about writing down what you did, like I said last week, is that you can actually see when there's a voice in your head. I don't know if you're like this, that is like, you don't do anything. You can look back and be like, no, I literally have done a lot.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, that's what's happened in the last 3 months. And so
awesome.
some of that kind of carries over into what are we, what are our goals coming up in the year, the not the year, the next 3 months, the next quarter.
So, yeah, let's talk about the future.
Yeah, our intentions.
Our intentions for the next 3 months. So that's January, February, and March, and then we will come back at the beginning of April and do another one of these where we update people on how
How it went.
quarter 1 went, and then we'll talk about quarter 2, our intentions for quarter 2.
Mhm.
Do you wanna start with future?
I do. I wanna say really quickly that this is important in my mind, so if you guys are thinking about joining us on this kind of like, "Oh, maybe I should write this stuff down and look at what I wanna do," I would love for you to do that again and share. Mindset surrounding this is, to me, that intention that we talked about last week. Goals to me are some tangible things that we're trying to accomplish and so I know that these aren't real definitions, but I do kind of want to just give you a glimpse into my brain, and Carrie, tell me if this is kind of how you feel about it. I'm thinking about it while I'm saying it. So my intention is is like, how do I want to feel through this and what do I want to
Mm.
keep in the forefront of my mind? Um, and then my goals are the tangible things that I'm doing, as opposed to, again, like for me, resolutions just seems too strong a language for me to be like, I've resolved to blah, blah, blah. Like people, yeah, people can, you can say whatever you like. But let's talk about the future.
Let's do it.
You want to go first?
Sure. Okay, so I've got writing goals and I've got sewing goals and I've got kind of personal, interpersonal goals.
Okay.
Okay, writing goals. I would like to finish one short story here in the next quarter. I feel like that's doable. I
Mhm.
would love to submit that short story someplace. And then here's the thing is I love writing. It's so fun, but also there's this huge part of me that needs to perform.
Mm.
And one of the joys of my life is writing a thing and then performing that thing for someone. And when I say performing, I mean reading, but I don't just read. I love the saying of it, the inflection and the tone and all of that. So I also want to read, if not the story that I'm going to write, at least a story somewhere in Nashville.
Mm.
I know.
I love that goal.
I know. It's so important, and I so often forget how important that is until I do it, and my whole soul fills up with, like, warm honey,
Mm.
you know? And
Mhm.
and so I think that that's really important. I want
And
to
you're so good at that.
thank
Ah,
you,
that's
friend.
good. Yay.
I really this is the hard thing about writing, is everything within me wants to say, like you said last week, "I'm gonna write for 3 hours." A day, every single day. But that's not realistic because life happens. Like, oh, I had a migraine last night, so I slept until 11. Then I got up and I had to take the car to the shop and then I had to run a couple errands and by the time I was done with that, it was time to pick up the kids and start on homework and dinner and that's your day, the end, you know.
Mhm.
Um so I have to be able to flex around having a family, you know, 2 small children
Mhm.
that need things. And so I am just saying that on top of my morning pages, which I still wanna do every day, I want to write at all.
Mhm. I love that. Yes.
And I have it written down, right, 30 minutes slash 1 hour. I think I'm gonna yeah, I just want to have written it all because if I even write for 10 minutes, like we talked about before, that's better than not writing at all. And if the hard part for me is starting the writing.
Mhm.
Right? Like, it's not the writing for 30 minutes, that's not hard, it's the starting of it. So, if I will have written at all, that will assume that I've started it, and I have a much higher likelihood of writing for longer amounts of time if I even start it. So,
Mhm.
there's that. In order to be a good writer, one must be a good reader. And so I'm going to keep up my reading, which is not a hard goal for me. I also, of course, want to do Duolingo. I want to do the site reading, like I talked about before, morning pages, all those things. Okay, sewing. So I did a whole year long sewing class not long ago that took me from like okay sewing to like designing and making my own outfits. And I've got, I mean, if you could see the rolls of fabric I have behind me, in this next quarter, I want to carve out a space of time for sewing.
Mm.
And I want to make something. It doesn't even have to be a whole outfit, it can be one article of clothing. And I want to do it using the fabric I already have. And if you're a sewer,
Ah.
if you are crafty at all, you know, you know. If you know, you know. All I wanna do is go out and use that Joann's 30% off coupon that's burning a hole in my pocket to buy new fabric, but I'm not gonna do that thing because I have a bunch of fabric here that needs to fricking be used. So, there's that. So that's the writing, sewing goals. For the interpersonal, personal goals, I have a group of ladies here that have all been in some kind of fundamentalist religious affiliation organization in their early and young adult, and in some cases, like mid-adult in their lives. And
Mm,
they're all deconstructing or have deconstructed, and they're all coming out of that rigid system into a system that is more nuanced.
mhm,
And also within that, they're all focusing and trying to decolonialize from a patriarchal system into something that honors more of the divine feminine, which is
mm,
absolutely the energy that I want in my life. In
mhm,
October, and I forgot to say this before, in October, we had a full moon party where we all sat outside and drank little cocktails and talked about all the stuff that's happening and where we've been, kind of like what we're doing here, where we've been, where we wanna go in terms of our community, in terms of where we're at with our spiritually, and that I think has been so important for me because as you know, if you've been listening to the podcast, I've grown up in a patriarchal, fundamentalist, uber Christian right-wing household, and I no longer want that.
mhm.
Um, and that takes ongoing work to
Oh my god.
dismantle
Yes.
and to heal from, which I'm in therapy. I'm sure I fully expect myself to still be in therapy by the end of this next quarter, which has been amazing. So
Mm.
those are my goals for
Yay! That's a
quarter
lot.
1. It is kind of a
That's
lot.
a
Is it
lot.
too much?
We'll find out.
We'll find out.
Yeah. And with our intentions set, as we discussed last week, allowing yourself to not do all the things all the time and being like,
Yep.
okay, so we'll find out.
Yeah.
Feels good. Like it's a lot though. And I
Yeah.
fully believe you can, but I also believe that if you don't do all of it, that's okay too.
I'm not going to hell if I don't do all of it, Emily.
Nope, you're not a bad person if you can't.
Thanks.
Slash don't.
What about you? What about future goals, intentions for you?
Fuge. Okay. So, these might be too general. I'm not sure. I also tend to get really excited about ideas and like rabbit trail into lots of other things, which is how I got so much shit done last year because I follow my like, ooh, um, and now that I could do this, and I actually do complete things. Sometimes I think I don't, but I do. Um, okay, so my goals are to have a rough draft of my whole show by the beginning of April.
Whew.
It's gonna suck. I have to be okay with that. I need a full shitty rough draft, which
Yes!
is what I tell my students. Please write some shitty songs, and that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna sit down and write some shitty songs, and I do have space built into my schedule to do this. And a friend who will hopefully be writing some of that with me. Do at least one workshop for singer songwriters for their like vocal performance within their own music. So I'm working on booking a space in February somewhere. And then when I'm doing the show stuff that I talked about, um, I'm going to say, if it goes well, I'm a coach. Come to my workshop that's very cheap. Um, so I want to do that. I want to perform my own material at writer nights at least twice. So I feel like in 3 months,
Music or the written word?
music.
Okay.
And then I'm working with Gemma, my coach, to establish some type of social media presence that feels like authentic to me and sustainable. Because I do feel like I don't have direction. And if I'm building this program with coaching people and everything, I want to show people what I do. I tend to not do that. So I want to build something that feels like a sustainable presence. And then, of course, one thing we haven't talked about um, that we've done is post a podcast every week. We did that every
Oh my
week
gosh, I
for
can't
the
believe
entirety of last year.
I can't believe we didn't mention that. That's a huge, huge undertaking.
Yes. And like,
Oh,
we've done that. And we're going to continue to do that once a week. That's a big deal.
it's a big deal.
Yeah. So, another thing, this is more of an intention. Um, I want to, like, personally, there's a dance class that's in Manhattan that is like drop-in ish, and it's called like SAS class or something. And it's a lot
Ooh.
of like hip hop and just like the kind of dancing I wanna do, because I wanna get more comfortable in my body, and I wanna have a reason to move, and, so I intend to try this in the next 3 months and hopefully do it a few times, at least. I'm hoping that I love it so much that I'm kind of addicted to it, so I have this vision in my mind of me going to do this, and then, like, I go right, with my friend, and then I go to SAS class because they both are in Manhattan.
Yes.
So that's something that I'm working on. Oh, I also started last year um, chiropractic with the intention of being able to lift weights without getting like headaches.
Mhm.
Um, and so I will continue to do that because I do also intend to be able to pick up heavy things without pain
Nice.
soon.
And that's a huge one as we get older. We need to be lifting heavy weights,
Mm-hmm.
ladies.
Yep. But I do have like a lot of neck and like
Mm.
trapezius pain and low back pain. Um, and I just haven't dealt with that. So what happens is I'll like start to get into some kind of exercise thing, and then I get headaches so badly, and then I like feel like I have to take ibuprofen to deal with that, but the ibuprofen is really bad for my stomach issues, and then
Mm.
so I we have thankfully are blessed with insurance situations that are covering this.
Oh,
Um,
man. That's so cool.
so I'm going to continue to do that and try to take better care of my body so that I can do stuff. I've
Yes.
noticed in my performances that and I've noticed this pretty consistently, and I've seen it in my dad's body too. Like when he performs, there's a stiffness in the center of our body that I dislike. And I think some of it is being out of alignment. But I want to like work on alignment and then go to a movement class that will help me loosen that up and get more comfortable in my body.
Totally.
So,
Yeah.
um, that's that's mainly it.
That's a no, that's it.
I
That's a
mean,
lot of things.
and I continue to like coach my singers, and I hope I
Mhm.
get new clients, and then work for Vocalize You and grow their program, and yeah, like cook meals
That's
and
like the hardest. It's so constant.
yeah, it's I do love cooking, and that's part of the enjoying the journey thing.
Mm.
I have to remember sometimes that I really love cooking
Mhm.
because sometimes I'm like, ugh, it's take forever. I just want to order something. And I'm like, no, I don't. I do want to cook a meal.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's my stuff, man.
I love that. You know what I wanna do, and I'm just spitballing here. I think it would be really cool if we had, like, some kind of a worksheet situation that we could fill out
Mm,
every quarter, and that way we could do it, but also we would have it available on the website for our listeners to fill
mm,
out
mm-hmm.
so that they can kinda follow along and feel like we're all in it together, if you
Mm,
will.
mm,
What do you
mm,
think
mm,
about that?
mm. I like that.
I feel like I'm committing myself to something, but
I feel
I
like
think
you
it's a
are
good idea.
too,
All
because
right, I'll let
I'm
you
not a
know.
worksheet kind of gal.
I
Maybe
love a worksheet.
put that on your list, Carrie.
Yeah, make worksheet. Yeah, and we'll
Listeners,
just add to it.
would you guys want to do something like that? Let us know. Maybe
Yeah.
Carrie will feel more guilty. I mean, motivated if
If people are like, "Where's my worksheet?" I
yeah,
was
yeah.
counting on you. I have also thought about that at some point we should have a resources section of our website.
Mhm.
And it can be like we can have a books resources on writing books, singing books, books on process. Of course, we'll have like Big Magic and um, the artist's way on there.
Mhm.
But like also resources for singers, like the singing straw and all the things that you like to use. And
Mhm.
then like just and then plus these worksheets for like quarterly check-ins and maybe a worksheet for an end of the year reflection slash planning ahead. I think that that might be kind of cool.
That might be cool.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Spitballing.
Did we just start a business? I don't know.
I don't know. We'll see how it
You guys are
how it all
you guys
shakes
are
out.
witnessing. Yeah, we'll see. Just
Yeah.
like is that too much? We'll see.
Yep. Yep. So we'll let you know. If I build it, I'll let you know.
Love it.
Yep. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll see you guys next week. Wahoo!
Quarter 1, here we come.
Honestly, dear listener.
Woo.